G'day and welcome to this, the 9th and greatest ever episode of the Destiny Down Under podcast. Greatest ever because neither me or Sloth are on it. That's right, it's just Myelin, Anonpig's on with him. They're talking about all of the lore that comes with the dawning, the new rehashed strikes, and whether or not that will hopefully lead to us seeing the rebirth of the old raids. We can only hope. Let's all cross our fingers and have a listen. Rock and roll, let's do it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Destiny Down Under podcast. We are in episode 9. We are joined by Anonpig. The two other co-hosts, Log, Power Slave, and Deranged Sloth, is not here today. So I'm flying solo, but I brought in a special guest, the pig himself, the Keller of Pigs. Those who like a lore beef over on the Twitter, say hi, Anonpig.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey man, what's up? What's new?
Not much.
Not much. Well,
not much is new. So
he's one of the few people that I can have a conversation on Twitter with, a bit of a beef, and then go, hey, 1v1 me on a live stream. And he says yes. So I'm very glad that Anonpig has joined me today. We've got a really interesting couple of topics to talk about, all to do with the new strikes from the Dawning, the Will of Crota, which is the Omnigul, the Shadow Thief, which is Taniks, and the Nexus Mind, which all have some interesting lore. They have new, not cutscenes, but they have new dialogue aspects added to them, which we have some disagreements about, but that's what today is going to be all about. So I think for the agenda, we'll talk in general about the old raids and whether this might be an indication of them returning. And then we'll talk about some of the details and we'll go through each of the strikes. Thank you for joining. Chat is massive at the moment. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us for this live stream. We're going to keep it relatively short and to the point. So I'm just going to quickly have a look at chat. Make sure there's no issues with the audio. Everyone, no one's complaining yet. So that is all good. All right. Anonpig. Let's start with do you think old raids will be returning?
I do. I absolutely do.
Okay. And why? Elaborate.
I guess if this is where you want to start, it's the most obvious answer is the Nexus Strike. If you haven't, and it's going to be spoilers, if you haven't seen someone actually play the new Nexus Strike variants, the ending has one of two variants where you either fight the Nexus reverted something or other, subverted mind, I think it is. Yeah. And that has the shield that the Templar used to have, which you need the Aegis, which is provided to you to take it down and then deal damage. Otherwise, you're fighting a normal Nexus, but it will mark you. You'll become marked by the Void, and you'll begin to have that black screen effect that we used to get back in the Vault of Glass. And you need to cleanse yourself. And there will be, I think it's randomly generated pools of light, just like there used to be down in the Templar as well. Yep. These are two very heavy Vault of Glass mechanics, and it implies that it's the training for Vault of Glass.
Right. And from a lore point of view, those mechanics are probably some of the most significant aspects of, well, the Aegis itself, really, for the Vault of Glass. For those who don't know, I'm sure most people do know, but that was Kabir's final parting gift, whatever your pronunciation, your preferable pronunciation of Kabir, which did confirm the voice actor pronounced wrong, so even in the in-game it's pronounced incorrectly. Yes, that shield is a portion of Kabir's light and mixed with Vex flesh from, I think that's the words that is used in the Grimoire cards, and it allows us to beat the Templar, to remove the Templar shields, and it does make a reappearance in the final battle with Atheon as well. Two shields then appear as we go back and forwards through time. So really heavy essential mechanic to the Vault of Glass, returning to a strike mission. Is it a subtle hint that they're preparing us for a release of the Vault of Glass? I think both Anonpig and I are on the same page here and probably say yes. It seems to be. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. A very good example of this is the the Sepix Perfected strike. In that strike, we fight Sepix. He's back, but he's with his new mechanic. He has shields that are dependent on the shock cannon. So what we're getting taught here is that there are servitors that need to be shot with a solar and arc and avoid shock cannon, which is a very heavy mechanic in the Axis fight. So they're sort of like conditioning us to be ready for the raid before we get into the raid, and seeing that in this Nexus strike really, in my opinion, really implies like, hey, the raids will be coming back. Also recently, or I think recently, my friend said that it was new this morning. Cosmo added Bring Back the Vex Mythoclast to the community wish list. So I don't know how long that's been there, but apparently it's recent.
Man, I mean that sparks a whole new topic. Whether what if VOG did return, what would they do with the raid weapons and armor, particularly things like Vex and Fatebringer, anything that has a primary element. Would that keep that element? I think that's probably, well, that's another whole conversation really with the mechanics of it. Mm-hmm. From my point of view, whether the elements were there or not, I would love to get a full set of raid armor from the VOG again. I 100% will play it, even already at max light or close to max light. I'll go back to get the full set of Caber's gear because it is my favorite armor, and it has some really cool item descriptions as well. So even if they took out the elemental damage on the weapons in the raid, I would be pretty happy or still receiving them without that, and also the armor. Some of the best looking gear.
Yeah, the Titan class item, I forgot what it was called, Prism, I think, something. That's one of the best looking Titan marks, in my opinion. The armor, though, but for the armor specifically, there's actually 2 armor sets that have been data mined. There's the bronze set that we see, and then a more glass-colored set that has never been in-game. So it might be something that they thought about doing, but they never actually went through with, and this could be how they bring it back. We'd get the Atheon colored armor as opposed to the normal.
Dude, we got glass shader like Atheon style. My God, that would be insane. I would love that.
Yeah.
Is it more so from a lore point of view? How could they provide explanation to us going back into the Vault of Glass?
Well, the big issue there is with every raid boss we've faced so far, they're permanently dead. There's no coming back for our, and I mean the final bosses. The sub bosses like Golgoroth, War Priest, Templar, technically, I guess. Sisters, Irute, they can all come back because they all have their little sneaky ways to work themselves back.
We'll get into the Hive as well a bit later on. We'll get to the Hive, yep.
But Atheon, to stick with the Vex, Atheon specifically is times Conflux. And let me, just so I'm not butchering it. Conflux or Confluence is the junction of 2 rivers, especially rivers approximately equal width. Now, to put that in terms of like what it means in Destiny, it's you have to think of it as timelines. Atheon is times Conflux, so the timelines of the rivers. And in this case, it's Atheon is the joining point between the timelines.
Yeah.
So for Vex to come back, as we see the Nexus come back, they would go to another timeline and take from the opposite timeline into our timeline.
Sure.
Atheon, however, was stretched across all timelines.
He was
So there's nowhere to pull. He's gone.
That is it is, and I think there's probably a mistake I made in the last video with that being not putting enough emphasis on Atheon being the centerpiece to all these timelines converging upon each other. Right? It is he is a center point. There are, but we also got like the Paradox mission when we go back in time too, and we see this alternative ending of the glass throne room, really, that's covered in vines and it's got the take in there too. And so there's aspects of that which I don't know if make complete sense, but I agree with you from most point of view. the Grimoire cards seem to say that Atheon is the centerpiece of all these different timelines converging upon each other. However, now, I think you brought my attention to this card. There is a card that talks about our achievements, and it talks about us killing all the bosses except Atheon. Have you seen that card? I'm pretty sure it's the new Guardian card. It's really interesting. This throws a spanner in the works with like everything. Let me find that for you.
Yeah.
And basically, what it does is it summarizes all of our achievements, but there is quite a neglect of what we did to Atheon. And it talks about Oryx. I'm pretty sure. Let me quickly find it. I think it's the Guardian, or might be Mysteries 3. Not Mysteries 3. Okay, it is the Guardian. Okay, right. So I'll read this one to you.
Okay.
So this is the one that was released with Rise of Iron. To answer your question, when it came time to reach out to find a Guardian to take on this mission, there was only one choice. They stood against the Vex in the Black Garden and grounded that place to Mars. They went against the Hive in the Dark Below, working with Eris to undermine Crota, the Hive god. The Reefborn made use of the Guardian in their search for the criminal Skolas, as I understand, and of course it was the Guardian that led the assault on the Taken King's dreadnought. All of the after-action reports have shown you about the Taken War, the calm state of the system. We have this Guardian to thank. I've attached more details. If you want to read evaluations from the Vanguard, just skim Cade's. He's not very biased here. Okay, so we've got the Black Garden.
Well,
we got Crota. We've got Skolas. We've got Taken King. And a very obvious absence of Vault of Glass and Atheon.
I think it's because I see... in my opinion, I see why you think that, or I see why you think that. My opinion, however, is different. The Black Garden's purpose was to bring out the central powers of the Vault of Glass to the outside world, not just the Vault of Glass. So that is the story mission. The raid is separate. Now, the story mission for the Dark Below was working with Eris to undermine Oryx, or Crota. Yeah. Not to kill Crota, to undermine his coming back. They didn't say we killed Crota. They said we undermined him. That's story, not the raid. Skolas, it was hunting Skolas from the Reef Wars, not going into the Prison of Elders and killing Skolas.
Sure, okay.
So that's story, not the end game.
So basically, this is summarizing the campaign. This is summarizing the campaign objectives, not necessarily the raid. Okay. Point taken. I think it's interesting that, I guess it didn't mention Oryx, but it did say the Taken King, and it did specifically mention Crota. And the Vault of Glass was, there as our major achievement, but I definitely consider that point. I think it's interesting. I would love for that to actually have been an issue, or a slight hint that the Vault of Glass was returning. So we've got the Aegis Relic, we've got aspects coming out of the Vault of Glass. Could it be preparing us for the Vogue returning? The main issue we're probably talking about at the moment for the Vogue returning is if Atheon is a centerpiece to the different timelines, then technically we've killed him. So they will have to provide some explanation to that. In your thoughts, is there an explanation to that or not?
And so that we killed him?
Yeah,
like, how can they continue?
He could still exist.
They can replace him.
Yeah, but I don't think they'll replace him, right? I don't think we'll get a new boss as such.
Well, I think it'll be with a different purpose. If we are to go back, it would be... It's hard to say, because it's like, is it going to be Vex still in there? And if so, then what's the reason? Why are they back in there? Like, personally, I feel like the Vex have played us up to this point.
I think so too.
Yeah, like they're...
They needed us to take out the Taken King, right? Like, that's probably my short
exactly.
summary. Yeah.
Actually, let me get the card. This is something that Xbox players don't have access to. The Restorative Mind, and this is a big one because the Nexus is now coming back. The Restorative Mind Strike was entirely focused around the Restorative Mind reaching into another timeline and pulling the Nexus Mind back to retake Venus. But we stop it, and yet now in Rise of Iron, the Nexus is back. So
how they do that?
But Yeah, we stopped it. So this is the card. The appearance of the restorative mind purports that the death of the Nexus Mind was a devastating blow to Vex efforts on Venus. But with its appearance comes many questions. If the Vex could unleash time as a weapon against humanity, why does humanity still stand? Are we so insignificant a threat the Vex haven't bothered with total annihilation? Or is it that the very state of mankind, diminished to a last city, is of Vex doing? That the Vanguard exists in a causal loop that the Vex control in its entirety, one from which there is no escape. I think the Vex have been playing us this whole time. Every, with the exception of Atheon, with the exception of killing Atheon, I feel like everything has just been going to plan, destroying the restorative mind. And actually, that wasn't even the card I meant to.
My thoughts on even Atheon is that. So for those who don't know, this sort of why we're thinking that the Vex are using us is mainly, well, from my point of view, maybe Anon's got a different opinion, but from the Books of Sorrow, the Vex encountered Oryx, and Oryx was way, way too powerful. They tried to simulate Oryx, they couldn't do it. They tried to understand the worms, they couldn't do it. Oryx basically took a whole bunch of Vex. He destroyed them quite quickly. They were really overpowered and outmatched. So my theory is that the Vex needed us to succeed, needed us to actually go in and defeat Oryx. We were the only ones that at that point they calculated could do that. And so if we were defeated in the Vault of Glass, we wouldn't have had opportunity to then go on and kill Crater and Oryx. So I do think we needed to succeed in the Vault of Glass for the Vex to succeed, but then now we get back into this whole, well, is Atheon proper dead, etc., etc.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I feel like it was the Paradox mission being completed that's just, they don't need us anymore, and they've stopped playing their games with us. They've stopped letting us think that we've won. Now they're doing things and we're not seeing it. The Nexus Mind is back. Why were you able to stop it the first time? I think that this was always their plan, to lull us into this sense of security.
Yeah, and. Yeah, we did get a bit off track there. So the Nexus Mind, the restorative mind, and we didn't really talk about what the Nexus Mind is meant to do either.
We jumped right into the vault.
All right, sorry. You were like, if you want to start at the vault, well, I guess we'll start there. We've got no backstory. Oh, well, we'll go back a little bit. The Nexus Mind was meant to convert planets into part of the Vex Gate system. That's my only real understanding of the Nexus Mind. So it would have converted Venus to something similar to Mercury, maybe in appearance, something like that.
A machine planet, yeah.
A machine planet, right. And this Vex Gate system allows them to transport across our universe, and they've got another system for different timelines. Is that your thoughts? Because I've never really looked into the Vex Gate system and trying to really understand the differences between what's going on there.
The exact nature of the Vex Gates are very confusing. There's just no real way to say exactly how they work. We see some of them on Crucible maps, and they go from A to B. That might just be because that's what they were last programmed to do, and maybe each Vex, as they're going to the gate, can program it to say instead of going from A to B, go from A to C. And it's just we don't have that access to the gate. So we are stuck with A to B gates. But
there's a whole portion of the void that I covered in there too, that the void's likely in between. And I think you agree with this. The void is the space between these gates and timelines. Anyway, we're getting into other other topics and other areas of law that we don't know. So I guess to summarize, going back into the Vogue, there's definitely potential to do it. It'd be great for this to be a hint to do it. There's probably some barriers that require some explanation to Atheon still being there, unless they replace Atheon as the end boss. My thoughts are they probably wouldn't making new content like that, and they're much more likely to give a reason for Atheon coming back.
Well, see, because it's the same issue with Crota, and I know you said we'd get to the Hive later. But
we can go into
Crota's
it now
gone
too.
too.
Let's go into the Hive now if you like.
Well, then exactly that. It's if they can bring back Atheon through this magic, he's back. There we go. There's no reason behind it. what are they going to do about Crota? Because, like, I get that Atheon has a little bit of leeway because he's a little more confusing. But not only has Crota been like said, the only way to actually kill Crota is to kill him in his world.
Mm-hmm.
But
we definitely
post
did
that event, we go back into his world and watch his funeral. We interrupt his freaking funeral. Like,
yeah, yes.
So there's just no way Crota can come back. Like, they were sending him on to the Hive afterlife.
Okay, before I forget, I want to bring this up because I thought this was one of the best comments of my last YouTube video. And if you're in the comments section, let me know if you made this. And a couple of people did talk about this. Wouldn't it be funny? People would be so outraged if they did this, but it could provide justification. All they do is they change Crota's name to Nokris, and Nokris is Crota's twin brother. and he's taken the mantle in the Hive Netherworld, and they re-release Crota's End, but it's called Nokris's End, and Nokris is chilling out there. And all they do is they just change the title of the of Crota to Nokris.
I actually had a similar thought. I don't think that's what they're gonna do with Nokris. It would be funny. It would be funny if, like, after all this, it's just that's what Nokris becomes. It would be funny. But I do think the possible execution for bringing back Crota could be as simple as just plugging in Thalnok.
Explain to me again. I'm not.
The
Fanatic. The Fanatic.
Yeah.
Oh, the Fanatic. Okay. Yeah.
So literally Crota, just not Crota, just back.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Hive's death system in general, because there are a number of inconsistencies with that, and so there could be some explanation with it. So the Books of Sorrow gives the general impression that to kill the Hive gods, we should call them gods, so Oryx, Savathun, Zyphi, Arath, to truly kill Crota, to truly kill them, you must go into their Hive netherworld. And this was a space that Oryx navigated in its first death, or something similar to that, and created his throne worlds in that space. And if they died outside that space, it's just like an infinite respawn, basically. And so to truly kill them, you have to go into that Hive netherworld, right? And then once you've done that, kaput.
Yeah, if you were to kill them so much so outside of their throne world that they couldn't continue to feed their worm, that would also kill them because their worm would eat them.
Sure.
Otherwise, their rule is throne world that's where they need to die. That is where they are actually, like, tethered to reality. Otherwise, they're just like a shadow.
Yeah. And so the inconsistency with this, or the confusing aspect with this, is there is a time in the Books of Sorrow that Oryx kills. I feel like Anon. I just felt the rage from Anon there.
No, because this is actually a huge argument I've had, and I fought it for
let me
months,
explain it once the people know what it is.
Got it. So you explain it.
And then you rebut it. You rebuttal. Yeah. It's heating up. It's heating up here. Okay, so there is an aspect where Oryx kills Savathun and Zyphi Arath to gain enough power to take on Akka, to then kill Akka and gain enough power to make the Tablets of Ruin, and then gain enough power to speak directly with the Deep, which allows him to... Oh, sorry. I think he spoke with the Deep. No. Yeah, made the tablets, spoke to the Deep, and then he had the power to take. The aspect where he kills Savathun and Zyphi Arath must be in one of the throne worlds, and it talks about it being a true death. And then both Zyphi Arath and Savathun return, and it's difficult to work out which throne world they were killed in, because it calls it a true death. How do they come back? So Anonpig's got a justification or something. All right,
I do.
Hit us.
This is something I was arguing, like, pretty much at the launch of Taken King when this became. It was just such a confusion, and I was like, no, no offense, but read the fucking cards. It's written plainly in the fucking card.
Okay, go on.
So it starts with 26, verse 3, star by star by star.
Mm-hmm.
Beneath a green fire sky, in the throne world of King Oryx, not Oryx, Aurx, our Lord's embrace.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. We're dying. We can't do this anymore. What's our answer? Savathun says, kill me. Xivu says, kill me. Aurx kills them, and then it ends, the final line. Then he went to the worm named Akka. So he goes to Akka, he kills Akka, and through that he gains the power to commune with the deep. Yeah. He takes on the new name Oryx, and he becomes the Taken King. Fun fact, then in verse 3:8, King of Shapes. This is the coronation of Oryx, O-R-X, the Taken King. It happened thus. And the cold abyss of the sword world, King Arash walked under a cloak of green fire. It's not Arash, it's Oryx at that point. So they actually have a type. Yeah. So this fun fact about that. Continuing. So then in verse 3:9, Oryx is fighting the Ecumen, and blah 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 blah. But he drove the Dakua nest into a trap, and they were made extinct. From their ashes rose cunning Savathun, saying, "I am trickery, and you have conjured me back with trickery." That's making people say, if you do trickery, that Savathun will come back. No matter if we killed her in a throne world or not, if you perform trickery, she'll come back. Then later on, I'm not going to find it because there's a lot of words.
There's
Same shit happens. Yeah, same thing happens with Xivu. And then
so I think it says like you embodied war and you brought me back. Yeah.
So
okay.
Really quick, I want to say, so this is how. So they were killed. They were killed in Oryx's throne world, and it is called a true death. But they were killed in Oryx's throne world, and then they ceased to exist. And they were brought back by their nature, by exhibiting their natures. So trickery for Savathun, war for Xivu Arath. Now in the Dark Below, what we have is Omnigul and all the other factions of Crota. They're going around and they are just tormenting the world. They're eating hope. Crota was given the name Eater of Hope. That is his purpose. So what they were doing was they were bringing back Crota from his throne world by performing his whatever. Ritual. So yeah, his ritual to bring him out.
Yeah. Cool. I'm happy with that. Look,
and
there's so much detail in the Books of Sorrow. I do remember that, and maybe it was maybe I was talking about the contradiction with calling it a true death if it wasn't in a throne world, or if it was in Oryx or throne world, how could it be a true death? Either way, I'm happy that most likely that Oryx killed Savathun and Xivu Arath in his own throne world, and then we reconjured back Savathun and Xivu Arath through whatever. So they can return, right? They're still out there anyway, Savathun and Xivu Arath.
From what we know.
They
might have died. We don't know. I doubt they would do that.
So the last time we saw Savathun and Xivu Arath, they basically sailed their netherworlds, their green moons or something like that, away from Oryx because they wanted to be separate from Oryx because Oryx was too big, too bad, too strong, and they said we must grow apart. So they went away, and that was the last time we saw them. So let's then assume that you can only kill the Hive from killing them in their throne world, and we obviously didn't kill Omnigul in her throne world. But does she have a throne world? Did she have an oversoul or some other aspect of Hive that allowed her to return? Because my question to you, and I don't know the answer to this, normal Hive, when we kill them in our reality, do they die properly?
I would believe so. They aren't strong enough to form their own throne worlds, so they don't have that separate place, you know?
Yeah.
That would be my assumption.
So the issue with Omnigul coming back is, does this mean she has a throne world or an oversoul?
Who?
Omnigul.
Oh, Omnigul. I don't know why I heard Zyro. Probably read it. It would appear so.
So that there would be an explanation
That would be why Omnigul is back. And in the strike, they talk about how Omnigul is probably just going to come back again, and we'll just keep killing her.
Yeah.
Because we don't have access to her throne. We don't know we don't know how to get to it. So she's just going to keep going back.
Yeah. So I've transcribed all of the new footage from everything that's said in Omnigul Strike or the Will of Crota, but obviously
Really?
I don't have the Grimoire card for it yet. I can find that for people if people want to.
Do you think there would be a new Grimoire card for it?
Yeah, well, in the footage, they have Will of Crota returned or something like that. The Grimoire card has flashed up from the footage that's been captured so far.
Oh, I missed that.
I think it's revisited. It was like Will of Crota revisited. Yes, it is. I've got it written here in my notes. The Nexus revisited. So I don't know. I'm hoping that will have a fair bit of lore to it. I'm hoping.
Do you think the Nexus is going to have two Grimoire cards? One for the subverted mind?
Did we get that in the Paradox or any other options? Like in other ones that have alternative endings? I don't think so.
Well, the Paradox had its special 3.
It had its own one. That would be interesting, actually. If there's more.
That was really the only thing with a special ending.
What about
other than Black Spindle?
Black Spindle.
But that wasn't really an ending.
Yeah, true. I don't know. It could do. So this is the intro, and I guess this is what people got pretty upset about. And I understand that if you don't really read Grimoire cards, which the majority of people probably don't, it was a pretty dumb reason to bring Omnigul back. So the intro to the new mission says, "Remember Omnigul, Hive General with a lovely voice. She's back. Vanguard Scouts reports she has undone her death. Undone her death. You make it sound like she pulled her knitting apart. Eris would tell you not to make light of this. This is why she's not here. There is no telling what else might follow, Guardian." I've got all the other entries here as well. Destroy Omnigul and any lingering effects. If Omnigul can come back to life, how do we make sure she stays dead? I wonder if the Hive think of that about us. To the Hive, death is relative. We will face Omnigul as many times as it takes. So literally, as you said, they'll explain that she just keeps coming back to life.
Mm-hmm.
Oversoul was a technique created by the Daughters of Oryx to hide their deaths in there. Could you have an Oversoul and not a Netherworld? Or are Oversouls housed in Netherworlds?
Well, we see the Oversoul in Crota's End. I don't think that was...
We see it in Crota's End, and we also see an Oversoul from the War Priest in the King's Fall as well.
Would you call that an Oversoul?
I believe when you get killed by it, it says Oversoul, or there is somewhere that references it as an Oversoul.
Well, it says here, Oversouls can be stored in a throne world as a mechanism of enhanced death resilience.
So likely it would have to be in a throne world. So for the most part, for Omnigul to have returned, we are predicting that she would need a throne world and an Oversoul.
Yeah, I don't think that she would need an Oversoul to return, the throne world. But if she has a throne world, why not also get an Oversoul? It's like getting a lock for your door. It's just making it harder.
Oh, great! And we've got a good reminder in chat here. Okay, so because we're on the Hive now, the asset we didn't talk about with the Vogue and the Nexus Mind was the Nexus Mind returns as taken.
In one of them, yeah.
In one of the alternative endings of Nexus Mind, the Nexus is taken, which appears to be a new thing. So, who took the Nexus Mind in this new iteration of the Strike mission?
Well, you said you have it transcribed. They say. Cade says, remember how the scholars said after the king was dead, the Taken wouldn't be a problem? Maybe they should pick up a gun.
Right.
The Taken aren't gone. There's still something up about this. What was his name? Malak. He was trying to rise into that power. To learn how to take, all you have to do is read the tablets of ruin, or it's essentially a technique that Oryx had written down.
Yeah.
And several times he's in the cards in the Books of Sorrow, he's saying how he's afraid that his sisters are trying to steal his tablets.
True. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. So for those who don't know, he basically found this secret from killing Akka, and he transcribed this secret onto the Tablets of Ruin. And the very first time he uses it, he talks about reading from the Tablets of Ruin, and they formed a staircase underneath him, basically, and he walked to an area, I'm assuming another universe dimension dealio, to talk directly with the Deep. And that's one of my favourite scenes, because the Deep's like, come in, take your cloak off, it's been a hard day, man, sit down. And, he actually talks directly with the darkness. And from that, he gets the power of taking. So I guess what Anonpig is saying is, if you can get hold of those tablets and read those secrets, you can then go speak with the Deep and learn the power to take, right?
Yeah.
Now, you are right. They do say some things about this in the mission itself. So, from the new mission, it says this. I don't know if that's really bugging people, but my girlfriend's vacuuming in the background.
I can hear it.
Can you hear it?
Yeah. It's been vacuuming for a while now.
Okay, but it's one of the things, you can't say shit about it if I'm in here like YouTubing. Hey, stop vacuuming! I should be like, rip the internet cord out. Okay, so this is where is it? Era says this. The leadership has filtered downward. Take out the captain's guardian. So that's all Era says, is that the leadership is filtered downwards. After Cade says, remember when the scholars said the Taken would not have any trouble, we wouldn't have any trouble with the Taken once they killed the king. And then Era says, not Era, sorry, Akora Ray says, their leadership has filtered downward. So, but I think it's more than that. I think for this to be really plausible, it's not just filtering downwards, it's getting hold of the Tablets of Ruin. Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just I forgot who I was talking to on Twitter about it. They were saying how they don't think that Siva is going to be around anymore, that we took out Axis, and it's like, no. Bungie wouldn't just be like, here's a whole new entity in the game that you have to fight, and then be like, okay, it's gone. That was fun, right?
Well, that's the same with the Taken, right? Taken and Siva. It's like,
that's my point.
Okay, so they've made not a whole new race, but they've given it a new skin. They've spent time developing a new enemy. Mm-hmm. Because Oryx is gone, we're not just going to lose. That enemy's not just going to leave. So they're going to provide explanation to who is still making the Taken. And obviously, we've got some really plausible options. Oryx's sisters being some of them. We've got some other shady characters which have, disappeared during the Books of Sorrow. Teox, the betrayer of basically Hive, of the Oryx and his sisters. She's unaccounted for. Shouldn't be alive, but likely I think will make a return. So definitely plausible. I think Omnigul coming back, there isn't much evidence for her being able to do that, but we know it's possible. The reason why it's interesting that these two strikes were released, or going to be released, the Nexus Mind and Will of Crota, is, well, the Nexus Mind is now linked to Vault of Glass, and Omnigul is directly linked to what she was trying to do with Crota, right? Mm-hmm. And the mission, she was meant to summon Crota, right?
Yeah, she ushers his return. So why is she back now? Who is she ushering? That's the question it raises.
Right. So it looks like it. They're quite specific strikes that related to Vault of Glass and Crota's End from a lore point of view, and there's a possibility that it could be hinting at both those ones returning. Now, you started mentioning Siva. I think that's probably our last strike to talk about, and any implications for that. And I think that would be perfect, about 15 minutes. I would love for this to be around about an hour long. So 15 minutes on the Shadow Thief and Taniks. What's going on?
And even though it's not a raid, President of Elder.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Because I'm not gonna. We're getting into it. We're getting into the Fallen, the best. We need more than 15 minutes, but we'll make it work. So Tannix has also died. Long ago, back in the House of Wolves, people had claimed that Tannix actually tricked us and survived. That he uploaded his mind or some shit like that into a computer and he survived. And I refuse to believe that. I was like, he's not that good. They're like, but he's called the Huntsman. He can't be killed. It's like, yeah, because he kills. He can't be killed. He hasn't died yet. Of course he can't be killed. Like, that's just a legend. It's not a literal translation. But Tannix is back, and it is Tannix. It is not some guy like Tannix, like I sort of thought it might be. It is Tannix.
He has a new skin, though. He has a new skin on him. Yeah.
Because Siva got a hold of Tannix's body, and much like the Iron Tomb mission, Siva got a hold of Iron Lord bodies and started working its way into their DNA and stretched out their bodies, made them 7 feet tall, and made their armor larger to fit their bodies, and like gave them cannons and a corn cob on their shoulder and really crazy shit. Yeah. And that's what it did to Tannix, his corpse. It reanimated Tannix. That's a horrifying concept that Siva has just been, like, not just in this one case with the Iron Tomb did Siva do this, and it took generations, it took centuries to do. Tannix hasn't been dead for long, and he's already back, so they can just go, dead, it's back, dead, it's back, dead, it's back. Like,
now, there's an interesting point that I hadn't thought about before when you brought up then. The new Tannix is the albino version, right? You know, the Siva leadership are all white. They lose their colours of the Fallen. Have you noticed that?
Well, they've got the, like, an onyxy color. Actually, you know what? I do know what you mean. Yeah. Okay.
The most obvious one is in the Sleeper Simulant quest, and a big captain comes down at the end of that, and he's like,
Sleeper Simulant?
Sorry, Galahorn.
Yeah.
Galahorn questline. And he is, I was like, it's an albino Fallen, and then in the Ray, they've also got that same sort of pattern. That's quite different from the reanimation of the Guardians. Maybe it's just because it's Fallen, but I definitely get the impression that it's, I don't know. I feel like it's slightly different with how the Guardians were brought, or the Iron Lords were brought back to life, and what it's doing to Tannix. And the most interesting thing about Tannix is he is one of the few Fallen with lots of mechanical arms, with the exception of Varix, and he actually even presents a little bit like a devil splicer with some of his abilities, or the biohacking abilities, because he has like a treasure trove of heart, lung, bionics, bioengineering things going on. So he's a perfect candidate for Siva. But the question is, right, this is my opinion, and I think you share it, is Siva, well, I think Rasputin programmed Siva to act like a virus, and viruses appear alive, and hence why Siva can seem like it is alive at some stages. But for the most part, it requires a controller, someone to control that. And we are not really sure whether, I don't really know or think that Axis was the final controller of Siva.
Absolutely not.
No? Good. Not often we agree, but sometimes we do.
It was you and Kexon that were talking about that, right?
Probably.
I didn't want to, like, I was about to talk about what he was telling me about, and I didn't want to say it out loud because I was like, oh shit, I don't know if they've said it yet. I don't want to tell other people your theory if you haven't told other people your theory yet.
I think, man, I made so many videos about Rasputin and Siva in Rise of Iron. I'm sure I've mentioned it. So,
well, it seems, then I will say it seems like Siva is sentient now.
You reckon it's progressed to sentience? I haven't
It wasn't told that way.
I haven't said that. No, that's new to me.
Really?
Yeah.
I think Kexon was talking about that. I think he convinced me of the possibility.
Well, I mean, I think that
the more I think about it, the more it makes sense.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay, so sentience, right? We talk about robots, okay, or bio, whatever, or even exos. Okay, so if you program it to act and feel and be a human, I guess, is it now a human? And there's the whole thing with exos, right? Like, is it now sentient? You can program that, even though it was just bolts and wires, but you could program that into it. And so the idea of these kind of things is if you program it like a virus or you program it like a living thing, eventually it will evolve into a living thing, and have sentience.
Yeah.
Great. And so that provides explanation to bringing back Tanix. So would you say that Tanix controls it, or do you think he's being controlled by something else?
I think it reanimated his corpse. The big thing, like I was saying before, that people were saying he was not dead, that he uploaded his mind. I think that was in some aspects true, where it's Tanix's body was reanimated, but his mind was preserved. So it's Siva reanimated body, Tanix mind.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, we have got 10 minutes left. I want to do something I should have done at the very beginning, which is Anonpig runs or co-hosts Destiny Lorecast. All of the links are in the description below, so you'll find a link to Anonpig's Twitter page. Always really good Twitter posts from a lore point of view, and then usually debates with others in the YouTube community about lore. Destiny Lorecast, I think I've put in there too. You'll have my details in there, and you'll have the Destiny Down Under podcast details all there as well. YouTube, Twitch. We stream around about 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Friday night. Each week, I'm normally joined by Log Power Slave and Deranged Sloth. It is not always a lore topic. It is usually just general podcast news, and we'll add a little bit of lore at the end. Thank you so much for joining us this week, Anonpig.
Yeah, of course.
Did I miss any of
Thank
your
you for having me.
Any of your links? Destiny Lorecast, yourself, anyone else?
Let me see.
And while we do
Destiny
that,
Lorecast.
For the last 10 minutes, if you have a question you would like me and Anonpig to answer, just put it in the chat, and we will do our best to answer in 10 minutes. We'll probably only get one question in. So I'll open up chat. Let me know if you got a question.
Well, one quick one. Purple Chimera, another host from the podcast I'm on, Destiny Lorecast, said, do y'all mean sentient or rampant? Because there is a lot of AI that is sentient. I mean, like free thinking. Siva wasn't a free thinking agent. It would do what it was programmed to do. It would just repeat that process. But now I'm starting to think that it is thinking for itself, devising its own ideas, and from that,
Yes. So yeah, autonomous, independent of something else controlling it. This will be uploaded to YouTube, so you'll be able to go back and watch it if you've just joined a little bit too late. Let me see if we have got anything in the chat that is popping out as something.
Well, if not, I would like to bring up the Prison of Elders really quick.
Yeah, you do that, and I'll pick out a comment.
Okay. Well, the big thing is Varix. As we see now, Siva is spreading out to more than just the House of Devils. It is now on Venus, which implies the House of Wolves, and in a sense, the House of Winter. It's also got Tanix, which means it's on the moon, so it can have aspects to the House of Exile. And if I was right, the House of Scar, and also Tanix, House of Wolves. Varix is very, very much against Siva. Siva is a disgusting stain on the banners of their people. He doesn't like it. It's causing this divide. And he is now the Master of Crows, and as always, the Warden of the Prison of Elders. And I want so badly for Varix to go all out getting new Siva bosses for us for the Challenge of Elders. Just so bad. Because I know it's going to happen. Like, that's the easiest thing to do. Like, Varix is clearly fucking pissed in the Grimoire. He does not like Siva. He's got a vendetta against Siva. And Vault of Glass, Courtesan, yeah, they're coming back. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to come back, but I'm confident they're going to come back. But Prison of Elders, like, no, I'd put money down that it's coming back.
Throw it down the law. Okay, I've actually got a nice one to finish off here from Stop Moving Chat. To Hero. Do you think the 9 will reveal themselves in Destiny 2? And I think as a general sort of question, apart from just the 9, what we would like to see in Destiny 2 from a lore point of view. So, big mysteries of Destiny, the 9, the Exo, creation of Exos, the Exo Stranger, blah, 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 blah. What are your thoughts on the 9, seeing them in Destiny 2? Too early?
Too early.
You reckon too early?
Define Destiny 2. Destiny 2, the next expansion, or Destiny 2, the length of the Destiny 2 title? Like, we're still Destiny 1, you know?
Yeah. We're talking next year release. Next year, around this time release.
Yeah,
September.
definitely not. Definitely not.
We won't get it.
They're bigger. They're a bigger thing. They'd be there. Because unless who's going to deny that the next one isn't Cabal? Who's going to say it's not Cabal? Like, it's Cabal. Come on.
Right. So what? In order of things we don't know that we think would be released, Cabal would probably be on the agenda soonish. I think
immediate.
Immediate. I think Osiris would be quite soon following with the revisit of sort of the Vex style, and
that would sort of lead in more with the 9. I wouldn't say full reveal on 9, but it would be like, oh, the 9 are this, or the 9 are that. We're getting a better picture of them, just not seeing them.
Yes. And then I think we've got all the other legendary heroes anywhere in between. And then I think right at the end, we've got like the Exo Stranger, the 9. What exactly is the darkness? Rasputin finally finishing whatever he started.
There's so much. Oh my god.
Dude. Perfect way to end.
Like, people are complaining. Like, no, people aren't complaining that they're making new enemies. But just thinking about it, now they have Siva, now they have Taken, they have these other things. Like, obviously they're going to bring in more. I've been seeding my podcast with secrets. You know, it's just there's more to come.
Oh,
and we still have so much that we haven't even like actually seen yet.
I think overall, the foundation of the lore and the universe now is quite solidly set for some really good expansions. I think people will be upset without seeing new enemies. And I actually think it's going to be hard to add a lot of new content without finishing off some of these storylines. I'm interested to see what Destiny 2 does.
I don't think it'd be hard to add more without finishing off, but I think it would sort of get obnoxious too, where it'd be to the point where it's like we're in year 10 and we're still waiting to hear about the Exo Stranger. Like, was that it? Was that her story? And then it's like, oh yeah, now the Exo Stranger.
Right. Dude, that was a really, really enjoyable podcast. I love that to bits. Thank you everyone for joining. Big thank you to Anonpig for literally only agreeing to this an hour ago. Just 1v1 me, bro, in a lore, on the stream, on the YouTubes. Thank you to Destiny Down Under podcast. That is the podcast that I'm normally a part of during this time slot, and obviously all the graphics, and that is from those dudes over there. And we will see you soon. I'll have new updates on my channel coming up very soon about more streams, and as usual, you're always welcome, Anonpig. Thank you.
Send me an invite.
It's an open invite. It's an open invitation. Thank you, everyone. Great stream. We'll see you soon.
Peace out, guys.